They say, before God said, "Let there be light," something else was already here, watching. A darkness so ancient, even the stars dare not remember it. Long before the first sunrise, before mountains rose and oceans knew their borders, something vast and unknowable existed. Genesis 1:2 whispers of it in almost a hush. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Most read past it without pause, but hidden in that single verse is perhaps the oldest mystery of all. What exactly was here before the beginning? The Bible's opening lines are deceptively simple. Verse 1 tells us that God created the heavens and the earth, but verse 2 suggests that some version of earth was already there, shapeless, empty, cloaked in shadow, submerged in what it calls the deep. In Hebrew, this term is tamar, word older than scripture itself, and possibly older than our understanding of reality. Tehom doesn't just mean deep waters. It refers to the abyss-chaotic, primeval ocean that ancient peoples believed had always existed. In Mesopotamian myth, she was a being Tiamat, the dragon of salt water and chaos. In the Babylonian Enuma Elish, it is from the slaying of Tiamat that the world was formed. Could the deep of Genesis be echoing this same ancient terror? If so, then, before creation was not just emptiness, but war, chaos, a living abyss. Some early Jewish mystics believed the earth's formless state wasn't just the absence of structure, it was a spiritual desolation. The Hebrew phrase tahu vabo, translated as without form and void, is found only one other time in the Bible, in Jeremiah 4:23. It doesn't describe a beginning but a ruin, a land after judgment, which raises the question, was Genesis describing a fresh act of creation, or a recreation built on the ashes of something lost? Darkness, too, is more than mere absence of light. In Genesis, it was upon the face of the deep, but in ancient rabbinic texts, this darkness was believed to be a force of presence. Some even described it as a spirit of judgment. Others, still more unsettling, believed this darkness had awareness, that it lingered in the abyss like a slumbering thought, waiting, watching. And then there's the Spirit of God. Genesis 1:2 tells us, "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." The word used for moved is reichaf, meaning to flutter, to hover, to tremble. It evokes the image of something poised above a storm, like a bird over churning seas or a presence keeping something below contained. So what was this Spirit doing there, before light had form, before time had name? Some theologians believe it was beginning the act of creation. Others whisper that it was guarding creation from whatever dwelled below. The early church fathers wrote cautiously of this passage. Origen, one of the earliest Christian scholars, suggested the void state might reflect a spiritual disorder. Augustine warned that trying to understand before time would only lead the mind into madness, because time itself began at "let there be light." Before that, only God knows. Yet many ancient traditions were not content to leave the mystery untouched. In apocryphal texts, like the Book of Enoch, we find hints of entities that predate the earth as we know it. Spirits bound in darkness, imprisoned beneath the earth or within the deep. These were not demons as later Christianity defined them, but ancient beings, perhaps once divine, now cursed and buried in the foundations of the world. Even the Dead Sea Scrolls speak of spirits of chaos, rebellious forces that roamed the void before divine order. Some believe these references are metaphorical. Others suspect they are warnings, veiled in poetry. Modern readers tend to treat the Bible's first verses as poetic, but to the ancients, these words were not symbolic, they were revelation. They knew the darkness wasn't just a backdrop for creation, it was the opponent of it. Something had to be pushed back, separated, named, and contained. Only then could light be spoken into existence. And yet, here's the most chilling thought of all. The deep was not destroyed. It was divided. It was named. It was set below, where no light reaches. But it still exists. Genesis later tells us of the windows of heaven and the fountains of the deep breaking open during the flood, as if the boundaries between above and below were never perfect, just temporary. Even Revelation, the final book of the Bible, speaks of the sea giving up its dead. The abyss called the bottomless pit is opened once more. What rises from it is not water, but something else, something ancient. So the next time you read that simple verse, Genesis 1:2, pause for a moment, read it aloud in the silence. Listen closely. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Ask yourself, if God's Spirit was hovering, what was it hovering over, and what, even now, waits beneath. Before I continue, if this story gave you chills so far, take a second to like the video, it really helps. And if you've ever experienced anything remotely this creepy, drop a comment. I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like true horror stories like this, there's more coming that's even scarier.